Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover the deck that I brought for the Bushiroad Spring Fest in Jakarta. I just came back, so going to be covering the deck itself. The deck itself is pretty cookie cutter, but I think the most important things is the tournament report, my approaches to each of the matchups, and the preparation coming up to the event, and what I anticipated for the tournament. If you guys need any coaching for the BCS season, feel free to hit me up on my Metafy. My link is in the bottom right hand corner. Feel free to book a session and we can get started. So the deck that I brought, my fan favorite, is Nightmare Doll. I think a lot of people know about this deck already. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm just going to go through each of the cards real quick. And if you guys want to know the deck log code, it is 383LX. Feel free to search it up, and I'll put the link in the description below. So the grade 3s I ran were 4 Carol, 4 Alice, 3 Chelsea. I did not want to reduce it down to 10 grade 3s because I always want my Marissas to hit, and the consistency of having 11 grade 3s means that my Carol effect will hit the moment I ride the Carol, top 5 check for a grade 3, and then essentially have a free +1 off that. So I didn't want to reduce it to 10 just because then it jeopardizes my Carol's ability as well as my Marissa's consistency. But as well, you know, there were some other factors that I'll explain a little bit later. But yeah, I think 11 is a really nice number, and obviously it's bumping up the amount of cards that Marissa can search. So if you reduce the Chelsea by 1, putting up a grade 2, then Marissa's going to be less likely to hit. But I think Chelsea at 3 means that you can start controlling your opponent's board in the ride down game, and I think that's really important too. For my grade 2s, 4 Marissas, 3 Lillian, and 3 Ginny. Only 3 Ginny, because I felt that I needed the extra slot for the 4th Rollock. I was playing 3 at one stage, and I felt going into like a teams format where I'm unsure of what decks I'll be versing, Rollock, comes in really handy. So had to jeopardize the spot, but also I needed to make slots for Lillian as well. I was testing with 4 Lillian, and the space got really clogged up, and I actually didn't know what to kind of reduce. So I said, you know what, screw it. If I don't draw the Lillian, then too bad. It's just going to be playing like the previous format, the Nightmare Doll format without Lillian, so nothing really changes. And if I get the Lillian, then good, I get the ride down play with more plussing, more stability, and sometimes that might just be it. And also it's like Carol can ride up top 5 search for the Lillian anyways, and then Carol can ride any Workroid from Sold, so it might not necessarily be the grade 2 that you rode, so you could re-ride Lillian on top of that. And hence the 4-3-3 split of the grade 2s. And if for maximum consistency, 4 Leslie, 4 Abigail, which is the best Nightmare Doll engine, and then 4 Rolocks because defensive capabilities in the ride down game, as well as just anticipation of any rogue decks that I might be seeing during the event. And then the triggers, 4 heals, 4 draws, 7 crits. Decided not to use the D crit. I was testing it, and I think it's a win more card. Bumping the Leslie from 14 to 16 might be, relevant when you dust, but pretty much when you dust, your opponent should be dead anyways. So yeah, decided to play the Intersoul crit, the Exotic Jerker, just because sometimes that card can trade off as another piece, but also your Vanguard attacks for 27 with triple drive the first time, and then 37 with 1 drive, making it a little bit harder to guard as well. And then OT is OT, so yeah, want to capitalize on the Dark States one and not the Elemental one, because I have 2 Vanguard attacks pretty much every turn. So looking at the G zone, very similar to my previous G zone, 3 Dark Lord, 2 Yvette, and then 4 1-of, so 1 Leontina. This is an alternate finisher. This slot can actually be anything else that you want. I never straight into this, it was just flip fodder the whole day. There was one instance where I thought it would be good, but yeah, I just went into Dark Lord, into Yvette, and then pretty much won the game that way as well. But yeah, niche situation where this might come up, but yeah, I never really found the need for it. So this can probably be like another G-Guard or something, maybe another Stride that you like, whatever you like, yeah. So yeah, that's Leontina. Next is Beatrix. Beatrix is good when you're versing against Mega Colony, when your Vanguard well, when your field is stunned or you can't superior call cards, then if you check the OT, you can start looping Vanguard attacks. So yeah, that's maybe a good thing, but I never found a use for it either. These two were like flip floaters the whole day, but pretty much, yeah, it was just there if I needed to, you know, get rid of Honolese or whatever, but I did not see a single Honolese the whole day. And yeah, I'll go through my tournament report later as to what I played throughout the day. For me though, again, another Honolese destroyer field nuke. Get rid of Honolese and then my opponent won't be able to call a board. Relevant in the Grand Blue matchup to get rid of your opponent's board so they can't use Negro Lily plays. And then Dust, the best finisher for Nat Mandel, pretty much drop this, Alice, bunch of Leslies, and call it a game. So yeah, that's the strides, the G-Zone. So I played 2 Jester Dragon, 2 Flexion Chimera. Flexion Chimera came in so clutch in so many games. This card is so cracked, and if you are not running 2, this card, yeah, like you're definitely playing this wrong. This card saved me. If you guys saw the stream that I posted, pretty much saved me from Spike Brothers essentially, and I think this also saved me against one of the other matchups as well during Swiss. But yeah, super insane G-Guard. Yeah, can't play less than 2. And then 1 Coulthard. This card actually came in clutch in my finals match. I needed a 1 card 30k shield, and this card gave me it. So yep, still running 1. And sometimes if you know somehow stride into Leontina first or something else first, you can, you know, flip this and then get GB3. 1 Furnival, just in case, you know, you need to dig for cards in the deck during your opponent's turn so that you can set up for the next turn. You can top 3 search, put 1 into soul, and then call it. Well, finish the turn, I mean. We'll call it for the next turn. And then 1 Dismal, Rearguard Protection. So yeah, that's pretty much the list that I brought. Very cookie cutter. Again, if you want to take a look at it, 83LX, that is the deck log code. So just going through the tournament report, I guess, what I played and stuff like that. So the first round I played Dimension Police, and this was a pretty risky matchup, I think. So I did have the ride down, so I had the ride down Rollock play in case my opponent goes into Unibird, but he double Geoma Glass back-to-back turns, and I had to take a 4 crit, and I was at 1. So 1 OT, 1 crit, and I was pretty much dead. But then I found out that my opponent has gone through 3 crits, and I think a couple linkers, 3 draw PGs, did not play any grade 1 PGs, looked pretty standard to me. So I took it, and he didn't hit a crit. So I went to 5 and then dusted him and won. So yeah, that was my first round. My second round was against Holy Shine Percival. So Holy Shine Percival, it was pretty unfortunate, and I actually misplayed. I had the ride down, but I anticipated that my opponent wouldn't hit a defensive, but he did. So in the case that he didn't hit a defensive, he would go into Spear X, and then what I did was I stayed up on grade 3 and got punished. My opponent crit, and I was at 3 damage, went to 6 and then died. So technically I should have rode down because my opponent only had 1 damage and couldn't give himself another damage. So then I would have been safe. You know, lessons learned. So yeah, that was my second round. My third round, I played against Brian Wijaya, one of my good friends from Indonesia. He played on Dylan Tedger's team. He played Chronojet Maidens, and yeah, pretty straightforward deck. Played, I think, Kevin Cho's list and played the ride down game, but it was pretty unfortunate for him. I think I hit the Dark States OT on my first grade 3 ride, which meant that every ride down I was hitting for 20k on my Lillian. And then I think I hit like 1 draw trigger, got like a bunch of attacks off, dodged his heal guards a few times. He didn't want to ride up because I think he didn't have a jet, and then ended up running into Elul, and then I went into a Dark Lord, Alice, Leslie, had 2 triggers on a Leslie, and it was like single crit or double crit or something like that, and then yeah, that was pretty much the game. So yeah, really good match though. I think we both played really well, so that was one of the games that I really appreciated that day. the 4th round, I played the Nightmare Mirror, and this game was really lucky. So I hit 5 blanks on defensives, and I saw no triggers at all the whole game. Drive checks, I checked blanks, and Wirab was sitting next to me, and it was like, dude, your checks are garbage. And you know, no lie, it was actually really bad the whole day. But then I took one of the rearguard attacks. I think I wanted to pass his Vanguard on the last turn of survival, and then took his big rearguard, and then I took a 6 damage heal, which stopped like I think 3 attacks, and I only needed to go 1 more, so I just guarded 1 and then strode in and 1. So that was really lucky. But you know, gotta play to your outs. So yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than skilled. I'll take it. And then the 5th game was against Dementia Police, and I lost this one. This one was lost because I didn't see an extra grade 3. Given that I play 11, I didn't see a grade 3 to ride down so that I can roll lock his Unibird. He had 7 checks on a Unibird. The first 6 checks were all blanks, and he attacked for 1, 2, 3 crits, I think. 3 crits, and then he checked the 4th crit on the last check. So I was like, damn, that feels really bad. Otherwise, you know, the next turn would have won. I think he had like 8 cards in hand or 9 cards in hand. And I would have gone into a dust and won. But you know, sometimes unlucky, and you know, unlucky in several parts, you know, not finding my grade 3 to ride down into, into the soul to ride down into. And yeah, really unfortunate. And then the last round was against Faisal, a really good friend of mine. We ended up playing in the finals as well. This game was really unfortunate for him. He couldn't find victors, and yeah, it was just like me riding up, riding down, and I think I stayed on grade 2 an extra turn without, I guess, riding up into the 2nd Carol, and then pretty much just snowballed the game away. And then he ended up riding GSing into Victor, and then I went to Dark Lord and won. So yeah, that was really unfortunate, but you know, both of our teams made it to top 8, which was really good, as we intended, and then we ended up meeting in the finals later on. And then we got to top cut. So my Swiss record was 4-2. So top cut, I went 3-0, swept the whole thing. The first round I played on stream against Spike Brothers. So the Spike Brothers player, Johannes Musa, was really unlucky. He had to ride into Dumbo, the stun gun, the 8k grade 2. Tried to deny, and then I got unlucky. I rode up to Carol and healed my only damage to ride down, which was really unfortunate. But his hand was really unhealthy. So I think he straight into Galley, put an ambush Dexter onto the rear guard, called like a bunch of units, attacked, took the Vanguard, he took it, he checked an OT, placed it on the Mecha Instructor, but then he had 4 units, so he attacked with the side of the Lucifer. So the other 2 were Mecha Instructor and the Ambush Dexter, and then that's when I dropped the Flexing Chimera to get rid of either a multi-attack or multi-call, which meant that he only had an extra attack afterwards. So yeah, that was really impactful, and hence why I say, you know, you have to play more than 2, because sometimes it actually comes up multiple times in a game. So yeah, that was my top 8. Top 4 was also against another Spike Brothers player. This one, it was a little bit weird. He rode up into Nova, and then only swung 3 times, no rising greed on shenanigans. But it was really hard because I had to guard through his galley turn, and out of my 10 cards in hand, I only had 6 guardable cards, 2 intercepts on the board, and I was at 1 damage. And I think he launched like 14 attacks or something, or like 12 attacks or something. Really hard to guard, and I only got 1 defensive. So yeah, a little bit tricky to kind of navigate. Then afterwards, obviously I got first stride, and then afterwards just dusted and won. So yeah, that was my top 4. And then my top 2 game against Faisal again. This was a really good match. I think he got into his busted turn, had 6 drives, ended up checking a crit or onto Vanguard, ditched 3 to restand. And I was like at 2, took 1, guarded like all of them. And then that's when the Kulthar came in, because I could 30k shield a unit. He checked the OT, I think, on the grade 3 turn, which was okay for me. Like, I don't have to deal with an OT defensively, which is, you know, beneficial for me. But I think he saw 3 heals and an OT out. And then pretty much after I survived the busted turn, I went to Dark Lord. And then we're up next to me. He finished his game. He lost to NLK against Edo. And he was like, man, please, for one time in this tournament, please may your checks be good. And then I hit draw, crit, and blank. So yeah, that made it all worthwhile. Pumped the Leslie to like, I don't know, 27k. Made it like a 39-44 column. Yeah, pretty gross. Ended up calling out another Leslie. And then Faisal didn't hit any defensives. By that time, I think he was out 10 triggers. And pretty big deck. So yeah. And ended up winning that. And then my teammate Kelvin won against Shieldfisher Gridora, and then we ended up winning the whole thing. So yeah, that was pretty much the tournament report and how I went throughout the day. So in preparation for this event, I tested against Jet Maiden, definitely a deck that I anticipated to verse, and I versed one. I also anticipated to verse Star Wars, but I versed none of them. Also Regalia, and I didn't verse any of them. And yeah, just like all these decks that I tested against, Narukami as well, there's none of them as well, and I'm just like playing against Deephole, Holy Shine, Percival, and like all these like random decks. I played like a little bit with like Spike Brothers, but not very extensively. But yeah, it was just like really weird that I didn't verse any of the matchups that I prepared for. So yeah, that was pretty much what happened throughout my preparations towards this. So in terms of the deck list prior to the event, I was testing with 2 Chelsea, and I didn't find it was enough. Bumping up to 3 meant I had control on the ride down game, as well as more consistency for my Carols to +1, my Marissas to plus, and you know, just salvage fodder for Abigail, and also, you know, having a grade 3 if I ever needed to ride down on a Dark Lord. So yeah, that was that. I found that, you know, 4 Lillian was too clunky, and if I played 3 Lillian, you know, see it enough, but if I don't see it, then we're just going to play the previous format where Lillian never existed. The one change that really felt uncomfortable was the 3 Ginny, but I found that I never needed it until I needed it, which meant that, you know, I needed to set up later on in the game so that I get the Alice Leslie loop going, but I never needed that loop bit in the early to mid game stages. And then sometimes, like during the ride down game in the early game, I find that, you know, you're going through your turns a lot, and then Carol will end up finding it, and sometimes you just jeopardize the +1, get the Ginny in, and then pretty much get the loop set up as well. And then the 444 grade 1s was just amazing. That just meant that I had, you know, 40k worth of shields in grade 1 plus 4 Leslies, so I don't jeopardize any defense from there as well. 4 Rollock is really important in the ride down game, as well as going into rogue matchups that I am unfamiliar with, and, you know, really good against Deephole to ride down, drop a Rollock against their Linker Unibird, and then yeah, just call it a day. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile or tournament report, so to say. If you guys enjoyed this, click a like, comment down below what you guys think of this deck and what you guys are bringing for your Springfest Premium tournament coming up, if you guys have any left. Feel free to, you know, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.